So
Okay.
this is the Norwich Redevelopment Agency. This is a special meeting Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. There's no public hearings or any public testimony at this meeting. We do have an invited guest who's on the agenda, who is Amy Valancourt with Ty and Bond, and she will be discussing several items on the agenda. I'm now going to turn this meeting over to the chairman of the meeting, Jim Cordo.
Okay, well, thanks, Deanna. Hello, everybody. Do we have a quorum? Deanna?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good.
So I'll tell you who's here at the meeting if you'd like. Hold on one second.
Yeah, because I don't have the.
Here we are.
Okay.
So we have Amy Valancourt, who is here as a consultant. Tucker Braddock is a member. Richard's here as a member. We have Melinda as our clerk. We have Stacy Gould as a member here. Is that
Good.
everyone? And I feel like I'm missing somebody. So we have four members of the committee here right now.
Good, excellent. Okay, well, let's call the meeting to order. And we have the list, the roll call. I'm trying to read the minutes on the little screen here. Approval. Let's have the approval of the minutes. Okay.
So let me get to the minutes right here. It's on the screen. Hopefully you can see that.
Yep.
I can't. I have a printed copy of it, and I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
Okay, seconded by Richard. All in favor? Or you want to take a little more time to read it? Anybody? Any discussion?
No.
No discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye. Stacy Gould.
Aye.
Aye. And Richard said aye, so I think it's unanimous.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, well, let's get right to item 4, the old business with Amy. And welcome, Amy.
Thank you. So I'll give you an update quick. We'll start with the YMCA. So we've gone through and done our hazardous building materials inspection. We have the results. We did an opinion of probable cost for abatement and demolition. Our opinion of probable cost is $850,000 for the abatement and demolition of that building. We are awaiting some more lab results from the soil sampling, but we did find during our drilling a lot of fill material. That's no surprise in an urban area. Brick, concrete, former building demolition stuff, coal ash. We did get some elevated lead in some of the samples, and you find that typical of urban materials with fill material. We're scheduled to do groundwater sampling out there for the wells that we put in. That'll be done tomorrow. We'll have the results next week, and we'll be wrapping up the report. The underground storage tank removal is out to bid. Contractors will be submitting, I believe, end of this week, Friday. So we expect to remove the tank the first or second week of September. The Reed Hughes building, we just finished up the phase 1. I have a draft sitting in my inbox. I'll review and we'll get that finalized probably beginning of next week. For that building, the only recognized environmental condition that we found was an abandoned underground storage tank that had been emptied and actually had been sampled. It was abandoned in place. When they did the sampling, they did find some evidence of impacts. Not anything that seemed, a big release, but there was obvious some residual oil contamination there. The tank itself is kind of in a vault. I would anticipate that as part of redevelopment, they're going to go in and remove that, but it'll be documented in our report.
I'm just gonna jump in real quick on
Yep.
reading Hughes. So as my understanding from the state of Connecticut, from an email and some conversation about a potential buyer for the property, that there was some impacts to some kind of plume that was off-site from a laundromat or something that may affect the air quality in this building. Is that going to be addressed in the phase 1?
So that report did come up in our EDR. I sent you the listing for it. So it does come up in our report as an off-site. That release was 15 years ago, Deanna. So it triggered a significant environmental hazard. At the time, that significant environmental hazard's been closed. So DEP would have seen the oversight of that over the 15 years. There would have been something if they traced it to this building and it caused a problem, and we didn't find that.
Okay, thank you on that. I appreciate.
Yep, sure.
And I guess, I wanted to make a note that Mark Kulos joined the meeting a couple of minutes ago too. So we have another.
Good, okay.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark.
May I ask Jim a question?
Sure.
Go ahead, Todd.
Jim, Dr. Braddock. The tank that Amy is referring to, that is the one that's underneath the sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay, and that was, I believe that was remediated by a company in North Franklin?
Yeah, a crop environmental, and they didn't
Yeah.
remediate, they just emptied the
Filled it.
tank and poked holes below it to try and, determine if there was a release. And they did get some minor petroleum impacts.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just if no one else has any questions on that, I'll keep going with the update.
I have a question, Amy, about the
Sure.
YMCA.
Mhm.
The $850,000, that's abatement and demo.
Correct.
That was, so will there be funding released in the future, do you think, by the federal government to address some of that?
Go ahead, Deanna.
I'm going to answer on that. So the city is going to be working with UConn. We were accepted into a program where the UConn Brownfields program is going to be working on writing the grant application for a future EPA grant. There is, I'm going to talk to Amy about this when she comes up with the numbers for the abatement and demolition. There is a potential, the city is going to go out probably the beginning of October for requests for proposals on this, and I'm in the process of working with John Salamone on that now. And there is interest in potentially some people contacting us wanting to reutilize that building, even though we know it's in bad shape. So I was going to ask Amy if when they do that abatement and demolition, if we're going to be breaking that out a little bit of abatement, if somebody decides to utilize the building and then the demolition costs separately.
So Deanna, we break out our costs like that.
Okay.
So you have the abatement costs. In fact, the way we break it out, if someone comes in, a developer comes in and they want to keep the building, and there are certain things, you don't have to do full abatement. You have to manage what you touch, right? If they're coming in and renovating the building. So let's say they come in and they know that they're going to renovate walls, ceilings, floors. They can literally go through and pick out what the cost for the floor tile versus plaster versus ceiling tile. They could take from our cost estimate and pick out what they know they have to abate.
All right. And so one of the reasons we're waiting till, just so everyone on the committee understands, going out to RFP a little bit longer is because this program, this EPA grant ends at the end of September, and we need to give Amy the complete time to finish out these reports and get everything done. So we will not be able to go out to get RFPs on either the redevelopment of the site, completely new construction, or the adaptive reuse of this building in some way. So that will be the options A and B when we go out to RFP, but we won't be till we close out this grant. So we have this full information to provide with the RFP.
Right.
And so does that answer
Deanna?
the question, Jim, as far as, so monies will be available from EPA and probably from the DECD, but we're not sure what's going to happen yet at this point. We're getting the grant application from for the state to prepare this, the Yukon program to prepare the grant application for us if we're going to go for EPA money. But we may or may not, but we might as well, pursue that. So it's not costing anything for them to prepare the grant for us.
Okay,
Right.
A question of
Tucker?
the chair.
Tucker, sure.
We're talking the YMCA at this point.
Yes.
Okay, and we're not talking about the Reed and Hughes at all.
No, well, so the Reed and Hughes, Reed and Hughes is not in the city's hands anymore. It's owned by the Women's Institute, who is defunct. So what's happening is it's not falling back into the city's hands, but we're helping, try to facilitate somebody else getting it. So there is Heritage Housing that's interested in the property, and we've been working with them, and they have been speaking to NCDC to partner with them, and also DECD to potentially do, instead of going, they'd like to go for remediation money right away, but I think what DECD is telling them, since we're only doing a phase 1 for that building, they would suggest additional testing and things for phase 2 and before they go for monies to do remediation. So, but they do not own the property, so there needs to be some agreement with the bank and LISK on moving forward with that. But that's what's happening at the Reed and Hughes. The city is sort of helping facilitate it, but we're not owners of it. In the difference between YMCA, we are the owners.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ask a question about the why.
Sure.
Thank you. Excuse me. Amy, the $850,000, is that for all the buildings or just the main building?
All of them.
Okay. All right,
Yep.
thank you.
And one of the things Deanna brought up is that Yukon is preparing the application for the EPA grant. Forgive me. One of the things needed to apply for the EPA grant is something called an ABCA, an alternative analysis of brownfield cleanup. And I told Deanna they asked for an abbreviated one. So in our project, we're going to fit that document into our existing budget to try to help facilitate Yukon applying for that grant.
And I just want to clarify for Amy, Yukon doesn't apply for it. Yukon prepares
Right.
the grant on our
Sorry.
behalf,
Yes.
and we submit it
Right.
if we decide that we're going to do that, but it doesn't
Yep.
cost us anything. We've been accepted into their program to have them work with us, but they can't start it till they get all the finalized paperwork from Ty and Bond, part of our grant. So they'll
Right.
be meeting with them probably beginning of October as well, Yukon.
Right.
Okay.
So you want
Okay, Amy. I'm
All
good.
right.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Do-
I have a question.
Go ahead,
Mark?
Mark.
Yeah, the 850 for the YMCA, that includes hazardous waste removal, asbestos, lead.
And PCB, yep.
All right.
Yeah.
And do you know approximately how much that would be out of the 850?
We had broken it completely out. So from our cost estimate, let me see if I have it up here. All right, I'm going to read it to you. The asbestos abatement, $291,100. The PCB abatement, and it's in paint. Let's see, painted concrete, on wood, on some of the block and some of the gypsum. PCB abatement, $360,000. The lead, even though there's lead in the building, we did what's called a T-clip. It's taking samples and then you measure the leachability. And if the leachability of lead comes under 5 parts per million, they allow the whole building to go as regular construction debris. So there wasn't a separate abatement cost for lead. It's put into the demo. And then we do things like universal wastes, smoke detectors, capacitors, miscellaneous chemicals, fire extinguisher, lighting, ballast. So all that came to $21,908. So
What was the lead, Amy? What was the lead portion?
lead, we didn't put a separate estimate because the lead came under the threshold that allows the whole building to be demoed after the PCBs
Okay.
and the asbestos is removed. So the lead was kind of a wash. There was no abatement needed for that.
What's the final dollar amount? Because I mean, we have a total of 850, but this doesn't look like it totals to that. What else are we missing?
It did. So the
What was
if you
that last
if you
amount?
added up the abatement, so 291, 360, 21,908, and then the difference is the demolition
Okay,
when
demo.
you subtract
Good.
that from the 850. And
Okay,
of course, under CYA, we always put in that this opinion of probable costs is a plus or minus of a certain percentage, but you know, you put it out to bid and you get the real cost depending on when you go out to bid.
Yep. So is the
And-
state,
Approximately
Mark.
600,000 is hazardous waste.
Correct.
yeah, almost 700. Now, if someone, you mentioned before, someone could possibly renovate the building,
Right.
that's a possibility. So is it safe to say the abatement cost would be about the same? About
Well,
600?
no, not necessarily, because in, you know, in regulation, there's nothing that says you have to abate asbestos. You can leave it in place. It's if you're going to damage it, you have to abate it. You have to abate it before you smash it out, right? There's regulation for that. So if somebody's saving the building and they're going in and they're just renovating, they can pick the items out because we have them numbered, 13 different items, and it would be like pipe insulation. Well, they're not going to break out the walls and stuff to get at the pipe insulation. But if you're demoing the building, you have to abate that. You can't just smash it down with the building. Is that clear?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep, so it could be considerably less.
They could
Yeah.
go in and just, you know, maybe they're not renovating. They're going to use it as is. I caveat that to say the building's in horrible condition. You know, I imagine they're going to have to do something to occupy it. So they're going to want to clean it up, but
Mhm.
they're not going to go remove windows.
and one of the things that Amy's not addressing because it's not under her, you know, this jurisdiction of here is the actual health issues regarding the mold that's in the building. The
That's
mold is
right.
so extensive in this building. So, you know, yes, the building could be standing and you don't have to do, like I said, some of this abatement, but I'm telling you, the mold costs alone would be considerable. And that's not something that's part of the, you know, what we're doing for brownfields. Mold is not a brownfields issue.
Correct. We looked at this for demolition.
Yeah.
They can use pieces of our stuff if they're keeping the building, but our evaluation had nothing really to do with the reuse of the building.
Mhm. Okay.
And then I will update some of the other properties that were under contract for, if nobody has any questions about Reed Hughes or the YMCA.
So we can't talk about anything that's not on the special meeting agenda, Amy. So
Oh, okay, sorry.
talk about it is as far as if you want to call it out during this discussion about the budget, okay?
Yes.
Question
Go
to
ahead,
the
Chuck.
chair. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was a question of coal dust. Is the coal dust exempted in this brownfield application because of the age?
So
Amy?
that's a little loaded question, Tucker, but the way the state looks at things like coal and coal ash, they have exemptions from having to remediate that. And the way the regulation reads is it says, if there is contamination on a property that is solely the result of coal or coal ash and nothing else, then you could be exempt from having to remediate that. However, in this situation with the Y, depending on when we take the tank out, right? If we drilled around the tank, we don't think it leaked. We take the tank out and we see some contamination. That remediation, even if there was coal ash in the ground and you had to release the oil into it, you're not exempt there. So just to make that clear.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Any other questions? Okay, Amy, move on then, please.
Okay. And
Amy, just gonna jump in. I just wanted everyone to know, I sent you an email a little while ago. I had posted yesterday, Amy sent me an EPA grant balance sheet, and then she had some notes. We talked this morning and she updated it. So the one on the screen is the updated, but both are on the website. I just wanted to.
correct. Okay, so that's where I was, you know, just going down the list and thinking I would hit the task orders 21, 22, 23, 24, but you see it on the sheet anyway, and my notes are in there. So where we stand right now, Ty and Bond had contracts with the city totaling $351,000, and you'll see at the bottom where we broke it out between the petroleum and hazardous and how much we've used along the way. And then it shows how much you had in the grants. It gives you a balance after the Ty and Bond contracts. And you move down and there's some ancillary expenditures under the grant that we keep track of. And then I highlighted in yellow the balance to spend. So you're left with, after all of this, $20,779 in your petroleum grant and $619 in your hazardous substance. Now that 20,000 out of the petroleum, you're using to pay the contractor to remove the tank from the YMCA. And we've estimated that removal to be $14,000. We're waiting for the actual contractor price to come in on Friday, but that's what we believe it'll be. So
Now,
overall,
is-
you're gonna be left with about $6,000 in your grant, which, you know, we'll end up closing out the grant with that $6,000 in it.
I think we spend it down pretty well. Hey, are we paying tax on this stuff?
No, no
I-
tax.
I saw at the bottom, balance after tax, what's T and B?
That's Ty and Bond contracts.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
I see it, yeah.
A little blurring of typing here.
So
Yeah,
let's touch on a couple of the things that you have notes on the side that we spoke about.
Yep.
So we just talked about number 3. So that the contractor cost removal of that underground storage tank was not included in here, but it was, if you look at the bottom of the sheet, it was under here on this leap, it was 7,000. That's the same kind of thing that's happening with YMCA. It's not going to show in the actual line up here. So I'll just go through these, and Amy, you can chime in if that
Yep.
works best.
Sure.
Laurel Hill, the hazardous building materials, we started that one and we had approved a task order, and then the project was canceled. The owner wasn't being involved, but we did spend a little of that money there. Then we're going down to the One Hilltop Avenue that was doing a phase 1 for Simon for June, and he needed it done quickly. So that project was canceled because he needed it done faster than we could get it done.
Right.
Then we talked about the marina. Task 13 was to do some additional test holes out there. And we actually put that on hold. We never really voted on it because of the issue that Mr. Joyelle was not being cooperative with the city on particular things. And we did not want to strong arm and say, we're going to do test pits there. So we did not. And that task order 3 was just put aside. And so what happened was we moved that time that Amy had put into doing any of that work and investigation work back into task order 1, which was the admin and an amendment for the admin, which we called task order 1 and an amendment. Then,
Okay.
then YMCA phase 2 is in progress. Okay, and the same thing that Trinacria Mill, That went over budget a little, and the reason it went over budget, Amy spent some time speaking with our blight officer. There was a complaint that they were doing some work there. Amy took a visit there that was beyond what we were going to do for the phase one. So it did go a little over task, but what's going to happen is we're going to move that difference into accounting for into project management. So that was Amy, the work that she did, and so it's going to bring that task order is going to be 4,500. And the difference is going to go into what we're talking about, task order 24, which will be coming up to consider in a few minutes. Then we have in progress, obviously the YMCA is still in progress, 201 Main Street still in progress, 401, 409 West Main Street. I'm going to let Amy talk a little bit about task order 22, which you approved. And that was the storage facility that wants to go there. They want to build a modern storage rental facility on this site, but it had a Jiffy Lube previously. Amy, talk about the deep involvement and DECD involvement, and then and what's going on with that.
Okay, so 401, 409 Main Street is actually 3 properties. So it's 401, 409. And it's also has a piece in the back, 128 Maple. 2 of the properties are owned by an entity that allowed Jiffy Lube to operate there. So once you sign the task order, our typical procedure is we fill out the eligibility forms, we send our petroleum determinations to DEP, and they then let us know if there's the ability to use EPA funds on these properties. They look at the current owner and the immediate past owner, and they say, are they liable and are they viable? So in filling out these forms and sending them over to DEP, they come back and say, hey, Jiffy Lube is a potentially responsible party if there is contamination there, and they're obviously viable. And also the owner of the property who let Jiffy Lube operate there is still in operation with the Secretary of State, right? They're registered as an active company. The property is current on taxes, so they're not in default and you're not in the process of foreclosing. So DEP came back and they asked a couple more questions about it, which we're trying to get answered. But they indicated they don't think they're going to allow use of the funds for the Jiffy Lube property. There's potential that we could do one of the 3 properties, but that may not work for the entity, you know, trying to purchase these properties or whatever the real estate deal is. You know, 3 properties are on the table. If we can only do one, it might not matter to them.
Now, there used to be a gas station over there. I don't know if it was on that particular property or if it was where the Walgreens is.
I think it's, it used to be an old Esso gasoline station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that property.
So again, they look at current and immediate past. So the former gas station didn't turn up in that.
All right, that's probably over where Surplus Unlimited property is, that block.
So
I don't think so.
So we're waiting right now to see what if the state is going to allow us to do the other property and not the one that the garage is on. And once we get that answer, then I will contact the gentleman who asked to have us consider this, if he would be helpful for still us to do the phase 1 on that piece of property, which will reduce down this amount of the $5,500 will be reduced down. And because we won't be doing 3 properties, we'd only be doing 1. If that makes sense. So that one that we still, so when we talked about having 6,000 left, we might have a little bit more, but that's only because we're getting a little pushback on that one. So let's move into,
Are there any,
go ahead.
wait, are there any tanks in the ground with the garage?
We wouldn't know yet because we didn't get approval to do the phase 1.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right. I'm gasoline station there.
Yeah,
When we first moved out years ago.
So they're comfortable if they have to pay for it themselves. It was just an, you know, kind of a carrot from the city that we would do that for them if we could, for the interested person to change, to do some modern storage facility there. That was the proposal. It hasn't come to the commission yet or anything, but we've been working with him and his attorney on his potential plans. But like I said, he didn't seem, it wasn't like the project is not going to fold if we don't get the phase 1 done for him by any chance. But it would have been a nice carrot the city could have done because we had the money to do it. But again, we're getting a little pushback on that.
Well,
So
Okay,
because of the use, proposed use, it's probably just going to be a fill and cap remediation unless there's, you know, a plume there.
I don't even know what they would do at this point, you know, because we don't know what's there. And so like, you know, what was there previously. So we don't have an answer for that, but that would come up as far as when we do our review for the CCP, because we know that there was a previous gap. We'll be asking questions about what they're going to do for environmental.
All right, and one question back to the Uncas Falls there. That underground storage tank money, is that going to be rolled into the final amount somehow?
Oh, it's already taken out, Mark. That was taken out and spent already. That was done one of the first things we did.
Yeah, but that's why I was just wondering, because it said in green that it wasn't accounted for.
Up
Oh,
there,
it wasn't accounted for in this number. So there was the 9,684 plus the 7,000 down here. That's already other charges that went to the grant was that 7,000.
Oh,
Right.
okay, so that was what that was. All right.
right?
So it's
This-
already been taken care of.
Yeah, this table is primarily tie and bond contracts, but I wanted when I provide it to you to also serve as a whole grant type of budget.
Because the city basically, we use the EPA grant money to take care of this. But we still had to pay the contractor. It wasn't, you know, so the city paid for the contractor using this grant money.
Right.
All right, so it's a tie and bond summary, but she's adding in the other outside contractors to give us a total on the bottom.
The
Great.
grant, right.
Yes, yep. So then the Jenkins Park is still in progress. And then number 24, the task order has not been discussed yet. That's our next item on the agenda. It's a $9,100 task order. Do we want to talk about that now, or do you want to talk about it let me get to the agenda first. Jim, do you want to move on to new business so we can talk about it?
Yeah, let's go right to new business unless there's any other questions on that chart. Anybody else have a question? All set? Well, let's move on to the next item.
You see the task order in front of you on the screen? I just want to make sure you guys.
Yeah, I
Okay,
have it.
all right, so Amy, why don't you tell us about this?
Sure. So previously, we had a contract for project support at the onset of the project. Usually EPA grants are for 3 years. So our initial project support covered 3 years. You got an extension for a 4th year, so we had given you an amendment to cover that additional year. This past year, EPA gave everybody, because of COVID, an additional year extension. We had enough in our project support budget to carry us through to June of this year. But since June, for meetings and any project support, we've been just holding that funds to give you this additional task order for grant closure. So in the June meeting, that the RDA meeting that you had, I brought up that I was giving you this last task order. It was going to cover project support from June through the end of this September, which closes the grant. And the fact that EPA has all this documentation required for grant closure. So to do the grant closure, it's an it's a summary on every single investigation you did. And what they want is in paragraph form, what you did, what you found, and they want photographic documentation. So it's summarizing everything you did from the beginning of the grant to the end. And as you can see by the the previous spreadsheet that Deanna had up with the contracts, we've done over 20 properties. So it's a significant report that has to go into them. And not only the written, it is also financial, right? Something similar to this, where we're breaking out all the costs in the EPA financial forms, which we'll be working with the city. So at the beginning, go back up to the task 1. So here we have the project management. I took it from June through September, right? So I put 10 hours in, and this is for the correspondence, support with property owners and other project stakeholders. This will cover you for the last few task orders there, or where I said in task order 21, let me see, 17, the Trinacrina Mill. This is an example where we're moving that overage from Trinacrina to here, and we've accounted for it. 10 hours for the grant administration, June to September. So we've had to do the quarterly progress reports in the acres database. So I put 10 hours in there. This grant closure documentation is the report I just spoke to you about. I previously in June told you it was going to be $3,500. I stuck to that price. And then lastly, we have the RDA meetings. So I included, so we had February, May, June, and August of this year. And I had no, previous contract coverage for that. So I included it in here, and I put 2 hours for each meeting. So I gave you a $1,600 budget for that. That'll carry us through. If you wanted to have one more meeting to wrap everything up, I'd be fine with that. But I'm not giving you any amendment for that. So this is your last task order. We can't fit anything else in. We don't have time to do anything else. This covers everything through the grant, and I also include it in the budget we just went through.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So what we're looking for is an approval of task order 24, which is actually amendment number 2 of task order 1. But just so for our tracking purposes and our system, it's much easier just to not say task order 1 amendment 2. It's just easier to just call it task order 24. And I've asked Amy to do it. There's a lot of back and forth with our accounting department regarding how they withdraw money from the grant and how it works. So Amy does spend time with that as well. So what we're looking for is that grant closure administration approval of the $9,100 task order 24.
I will make
Make
that.
a motion that we approve task order number 24 for the grant closure administration.
Second.
Was that a
Tucker
motion?
Braddock.
I didn't hear that. Was that a motion, Stacy?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Seconded by Tucker. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
Amy's
Great
done
job.
a hang up job.
Oh,
Good luck
thank
to have
you.
her.
That's right.
Thank you.
It would
I'm
be our-
really,
This grant.
yeah, I'm looking forward to, UConn getting you guys the grant for YMCA.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll have a vote in a second. I just one quick question then, Amy.
Sure.
If we, for whatever reason, if we need this September meeting, you're okay with that? You
I
said
am.
before. Okay,
am.
good. I just wanted to clarify that part. Okay, all in favor of the motion on the floor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous, I believe.
Great, yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Amy.
Jim, we have no public on for citizen comment on this call.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the adjournment part, I guess. We get a motion to adjourn.
Tucker, motion to adjourn.
I'll
Tucker.
second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Poulos. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a great
Aye.
afternoon, everyone.
Okay, I think it's unanimous for adjournment, so thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Deanna, could I ask you to, all these documents, did you send them out with the agenda Were they sent to me and I just haven't seen them yet?
Well, no, what I do is I send you a couple of the documents, but everything is on our remote meetings page. And that's what I do. I send you the link to go to the remote meetings page where all of our forms are. Because what happens is I send this out and a bunch of people's emails bounce back. They can't get all the documents. So it
Okay.
just bounces back. So instead of sending 4 separate emails, I send you the link. So in the future, just go to the link and it brings you right to the remote meetings page, and it has all the documents because we have to put them up for the public anyways to be able to see them. So that's what we do. So, all right.
Okay.
Right, I
Okay.
wasn't able to find them either.
You weren't, Stace? Did you get to the, did you see my link? Did you find the link on the email that I sent you?
On the email or the,
In the
Yeah.
email, I have the link to the documents. When I email you, I said, here's the link to the documents.
She just sent that out today.
Yes, because exactly, because I thought, but in every other previous emails, I've been sending that to you, and then I didn't, when I sent you the agenda the other day, I did just send you the hard copy of the agenda with the Zoom meeting here in it, so you would have that. But yeah, so normally that's what happens is we've been just sending you the link to the remote pages because people's emails
Okay.
bounce back so much junk.
All right, would you mind sending that again? Because I don't see it. for
yeah, good idea.
You mean the link to the remote meetings? Yes, I'll send it out to you again. Just for the
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
send it
Thanks a
to-
lot.
I will. I'll send everyone and then you just click on the remote meetings and then, well, and it'll come up. It has all the dates of the meetings on the left and you just pick the date. And when you click the date, it shows under RDA, it shows you everything that's all these documents that I'm showing on the screen. That's where actually all of these are being called up from that website right now.
Good.
And
Good,
here's what it
okay.
looks like. Can you see the screen right now? It
Yeah.
says RDA, this is the remote meetings folder. So this is today's meeting. You click on it and it shows everything that I have up. So you can
Okay.
go back to old meetings and find everything that was for those meetings.
Good, okay.
Okay?
You know, we do the same thing at Board of Ed now, board docs, so no more pieces of paper to shuffle through. It's all in one place.
All
I
right
love
there.
the paper. I'm a paper shuffler, but you know what? We're sending them by email instead of mailing like the old way we used to mail stuff out. But by sending them an email, just some people's emails doesn't take the quantity of the PDFs and it just pops them all back. So, all right.
Okay.
So there was a motion, and was that finalized then? We all
Yeah, we voted. Yep.
Yeah, we
We're,
voted.
We're adjourned. That was all off the
Okay.
agenda.
take care, everyone.
Okay, everyone, thank you very much.
Take care.
Alrighty.
Bye-bye then.
Bye-bye.
It's what I